how to do live on my computer so I can see anything you ask, but I don't know why it's not showing up. But anyway, let's get started. Let's not waste our time. So I just want to do an update. Hi guys, my name is Luda. I go by Nitty Life, and I do crochet and knitting items and jewelry and clothes and tapestries, and I also do puzzles. Anyway, I just finished this vest. I knitted this vest. It took me quite a long time. It was really annoying, the stripes, but it turned out pretty good. And I am currently in class right now in Lafayette learning how to do socks. My first time ever making socks. I had this yarn since like 3 Christmases ago, I think from my dad or my mom. Someone gifted me this yarn. And yeah, this is my first sock, guys. I am so excited. I did the rib for, I want to say maybe 12 rows. And then this is the heel that we're working on. Here's the heel that goes around. We did accidentally cast on a wrong amount of stitches. But anyway, I have a professional knitter. She's like in her 80s, Margaret. She's amazing, and she's teaching me how to do this, so it's really fun. Along that, we are doing a lot more things. Hope my mom doesn't see this, but I'm crocheting a cardigan for her birthday. I got this yarn from the yarn store. So beautiful. I'll try it on because I started the sleeves. She said gray. This is the only gray I found. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm really excited how it's churning out. We'll have to do a lot of ribbing, and we have a ton of yarn still left. Let me show you the yarn. This is the yarn I got. I absolutely love it. It is Noble Cotton tie-dye. They spun it for me, so it's easier for me to crochet. And it's looking really good. I love how it's turning out. Another thing, we are starting to work on our, sorry guys, give me a sec, for our Christmas handmade market. So here's my rack, one of them, and we need to crochet and knit way more. We have a lot of, oops, my ring got stuck. We have a lot of sweaters, like these are really good for Christmas, right? So we have these that I made, which are pretty good. And then I have like a lot of summer stuff still. I have vests, and then I have these crochet cardigans that are really fun and easy, tutorial that I found on YouTube. So yeah, and we need to make a lot more hats. I just got the coolest lamp from IKEA. Here's one of the hats. It's kind of getting stretched, but the lamp turns on. I hope you guys can see it. Let me see. I'm gonna lower the lights. So I'm just kind of catching up because I've been gone for a while. But look at this lamp. Pretty freaking cool. So hopefully at my Christmas market, because it's indoor, we'll have some stuff, and it does different colors. So cool. I'm really excited for this one. So we gotta do a lot of hats this Christmas. And on top of that, I started my snowboarding hoods because, oh, sorry, trying to turn off the lamp. Okay, perfect. I started my snowboarding hoods because there's snow on the mountains already, which is so crazy. Again, welcome if you guys are new. My name is Luda. I go by Nitty Life, and I'm just catching up what I'm working on currently. And then we're going to listen to a true story podcast, crime podcast. So I'm super excited. Anyway, this is for my mom. I hope she's not watching because she does follow me on YouTube. Her birthday's coming up in October, so I think I gotta hurry up, but I'm almost there. I can finish it because I have about 3 of these left, so I think it's perfect because we're doing sleeves right now. And then for the ribbing, I am thinking of doing just solid gray for the ribbing versus the same color. We'll see. I'm super excited. And then, do you guys want to see? Here's some of the items on my rack. I made this. It's kind of heavy, but it's nice cotton, 100% cotton yarn. I just had a ton of leftover yarn. Also, guys, okay, so I get my yarn from Hobby Yarn. It's a Denmark company, and the tariff's been crazy. I was just trying to order some yarn for my dad to maybe make him a sweater, in dark blue, and the order was $60, but then with the tariffs it was like 107, maybe like $30+ of just tariffs. I'm curious if you guys are also experiencing this wherever you're from, but yeah, really sad. So yeah, this is one of the ones I made a long time ago. It's really long. This is my most current project that I just finished. It's knit, and then I have these for him and her. So I really hope they sell at the Christmas market. They're super cute. I did put them up. I think this is 160, 120. I should probably bring up the price a little because my snowboarding hood on its own is like 140. I mean, it does take me a really long time, but finally, this is so funny, guys. Okay, so this one and this one, same yarn. One is crochet, one is knitted, and I also made lace crochet top using the same yarn because I got a ton of it, and that one sold really fast, so I should have probably done that more. But anyway, I didn't like how the knit turned out. The stripes are not my vibe. I don't know. Do you guys like it? Let me know. Is this something? Hi. Oh my gosh. Henderson, I am your mom. I hope you're not. Anyway, and then this is the same exact yarn. Isn't that crazy how different, so crocheting and knitting will make the yarn look different. And I love the look of this one a little bit more better. I added blue cotton just to kind of have it more pop on the bottom as well. So I hope that sells at the market for Christmas. And then what else is new? Guys, I had this one since before I had kids. So like 4 or 5 years. I think this is one of my longest cardigans that haven't sold yet. A lot of people pick it up and they try it on and they want to buy it. But they don't, weirdly. I don't know if it's maybe the material, because at this point I was using acrylic. Now I use a lot of cotton and some wool, but not that much. But yeah, like how cute is this? Like, why is no one buying it? And I even added a pocket. Interesting. But what else? What else we got? Let's see. Ugh. So we got this, and then of course I got my SpongeBob vest. I don't know, I usually wear it at the market because then it draws people to your booth, which is really fun. So of course this one took me forever. This is actually my most expensive piece. I don't know, people are gonna go after me. They're gonna say it's too cheap probably, or it's too expensive. You can never get it right. But anyway, it's $300. People always ask me about it. Yeah, because it took me literally like 2 or 3 months to do it, and people are so funny because they ask me how many hours. So I was like, I don't know, like definitely more than 40+ hours, because I knitted this and then I did duplicate stitch, and then I use this like material that I bought so the ends are not bugging you, which is really nice. And I washed it a couple times, so it's really nice, easy to wash. I was pregnant, so when I made this, so it's a little kind of like loose, very loose, like medium, oversized, large almost, I would say. But it's, look at this picture, it's the best. And I really want to make more pieces like this, but they just take so much longer, and I don't know, I'm feeling pressure by social media because I'm seeing people knitting crochet so fast, and it's like new project, and I need to chill and do something that I enjoy and not force myself to do something that I don't enjoy. Anyway, this one's my favorite too. A lot of people love this one. This is actually from the snowboarding hoods that I did for customers. They didn't like it. They picked a different square, so I just had them left over. And then I made it a vest out of it. So yeah, super fun. And let me show you this hood that I'm working on for 2024 season. Yeah. So this is the combo. This is the combo that I'm working on for 2024 season. We got 2 squares. They take 30 minutes to make for me, and we need to make 14 squares. So you do the math. It takes a long time. So it's really funny when people at the market say, "What? That's so expensive." And it's like, you could make it yourself and see how it goes, you know? So yeah, I hope this combo is good. A lot of people commented pink, and I've made a lot of pink hoods, so I think this is pretty good. But anyway, let me put everything away and let's get started on our podcast. stick around if you want to listen to some true crime. It's called Let's Not Meet, and it's free on your podcast app. And I think this episode came out 2 days ago. So I'm really excited to listen to it and crochet along. So grab some coffee, grab some tea, grab your project, and just come hang out with me. Alright, let me put this away. So cool, I love this rack. Go IKEA, just have some good stuff. Alright, let's do it. So, here goes the podcast.
Together. This podcast contains adult language and content. Listener discretion is advised. If you have a story to share, send it to letsnotmeetstories@gmail.com. Enjoy the show.
Cheers.
I wrote a book of personal essays and included this story, and one of my readers mentioned that this was a great place to share. I lived in China from 2011 to 2016, and this happened mid-2012. My friend and I decided to visit the coastal city of Qingdao for the weekend. It was only a 3-hour train ride away, and my friend, who was very rich, but also a mess, was personally friends with the owner of the observatory turned hostel that we liked to stay at when we visited as groups. But this time, it was just the two of us. After a lovely day, we decided that we wanted to hit the bars, but we wanted to stay away from downtown. I can speak pretty good Chinese, but my friend can't. So, when we got into the cab, I told the driver that we wanted to go to the closest bar. I even said that I didn't care if the closest bar wasn't popular, we just wanted to be taken there. As a side note, while we were on the way to who knows where, our driver spotted this awesome fruit market, so he paused near the meter while we all stopped to buy some sunfruits. He then took us to some random bar, which was definitely trying to be a club, but the club wasn't quite clubbing. We went in, and about a quarter of the tables were occupied, but the bar was completely open. Instead of having an open dancing space, there are a lot of tables at Chinese clubs, and people just dance in the space between them. We then took a seat at the bar and ordered a round of beer, and my friend pulled out a pack of pills. You see, she was an addict. She was taking literally 12 Lunesta pills a day, and she always took 6 pills before she started drinking. Back then, there was a generic over-the-counter version of Lunesta available in China. Part of the reason my friend asked me to go to the bar with her was because I always refused to leave her whenever she got to a state where she couldn't function. And, well, she was partying for the whole trip, and I was both eager to please and eager to party with her. When she took her pills out, my 20-year-old brain naively decided that I wanted to know what it was like to get high on Lunesta, so I asked her for one. She refused at first, saying that I couldn't handle it, but I kept pestering her until she gave me half a pill, and then down the hatch it went. The next thing I knew, the club was suddenly booming, and there was this big guy in my face talking to me, like we were in the middle of a conversation. The bartender then slid 2 shot glasses over to us. The guy then gestured to cheers, so I met his glass with mine and cheersed him, and then I drank. It was tequila, and I felt myself fade to black after that. Cut from black, and there was then nobody in the club except for me, the big guy I had tequila shots with, the staff, and a couple of stragglers. I was pretty lucid at that point. The big guy said that he didn't know where my friend was, but he knew how to get me back to the observatory, and said that he could give me a ride. I accepted and got in the front seat of his van.
No.
We drove for a while, and then I realized as we kept driving and driving and driving, the drive was taking longer than our taxi driver from earlier. So I said as much, and he just casually said, "Oh, no, we're going back to my place. I've got some friends who really want to meet you." I immediately started to quietly find a way to escape. I noticed that the door was unlocked, which was good, but we were driving too fast for me to jump out. Even if I did that, it wasn't like anyone would see me flying out of his car and step in to help. That just doesn't happen there. So I sat there, taking stock of everything that I had on me. And then it all came together. I felt my cigarettes, just as I saw a 24-hour convenience store at the upcoming intersection. The light was yellow, but it happened to turn red at the perfect time. As soon as we were slowed enough, I screamed, "I have to buy cigarettes!" And then I flung the door open and ran to the Unimart. I begged the cashiers to call the police, but they refused and yelled at me to get out of their store. The big guy then walked in, saw me, and speed walked towards me. I screamed at them to call the police again, but they just kept yelling, "Get out! Get out!"
No.
I was now running through the store while this big guy was chasing me, and I was knocking over displays between us. Then suddenly, the police arrived. I sprinted over to them, got behind them, and pointed at the big guy, saying, "He's trying to take me." The police were so confused at first, but the big guy had no explanation. So they put us in separate police cars and took us both to the station. They sat me in the detective's cubicle while they took the big guy into a room in the back. The detective asked to see my passport and asked for my side of the story. He also asked who I was, why I was in that city, why I was in China, etc. I asked if I could go outside to have a cigarette, but he said no. Then he left, and I waited and waited. While waiting, I started going through my belongings again. I had 0 cash and my phone was dead. I was glad to see that I still had my SLR camera. A couple of hours went by, and the detective eventually came back and told me I was free to go. I asked him, "What about the big guy?" He said that the big guy gave them a fake ID, and that they found out he's actually from Hong Kong. He refused to say why he was in town when he was supposed to be in another city, and he refused to say where he was staying. So they were holding him for further questioning. I told the police that my phone was dead and I didn't have any money for a taxi, but they just told me, "Oh well." I was eventually able to find a taxi driver who sympathized with my story and traded me a ride to the hostel for a cigarette. When I got to our room, it was locked, but I didn't have a key. My friend had the only one. Luckily, she was there, but it took 10 minutes of banging on the door for my friend to wake up and let me in. But I was just glad to see that she was safe. So, to both the big guy and Lunesta, let's not meet again. I'm an alcoholic, and I've been sober for 9 years. This is without a doubt my proudest accomplishment. I started getting help during my sophomore year of high school. Looking back, I'm so grateful for the timing. If I had hit rock bottom later, things would only have been worse. My parents transferred me to a different school so that I could start fresh and meet new people. By the time I turned 18, a few months before graduation, I had already been sober for over 2 years. That was around the time that I started aging out of most teen recovery programs, and a lot of counselors I worked with only focused on youth cases. So I had to start finding adult support groups. I grew up in Los Angeles, but not the touristy part. My neighborhood had liquor stores every few blocks and corner shops with thick plexiglass windows. Alcoholism was really common and normalized in my area. So once the teen programs ended for me, I started going to early morning AA meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They were held in a small church near my school. I didn't have first period on those days, so the scheduling of these meetings worked out perfectly. After the meetings, I would usually stay for a couple of extra minutes to write in my journal or just enjoy the quiet. One morning, there was a guy who stayed behind after the meeting. He asked me what I was writing, and I told him I was journaling. He said he liked the idea and wanted to try it out himself. After that, he started sitting next to me at every meeting. We would talk for a bit, and he seemed pretty normal. He was also just about my age. He knew I was about to graduate and asked if I planned to keep coming to that group during the summer. I told him I wasn't sure yet, since I had just gotten a job across town. I let him know that I was looking into meetings closer to where I would be working. I could tell that he didn't love that answer, though. I talked in a lot of those meetings. I found it productive, and I didn't like to go and just sit in silence. I made an effort to bring energy into the room, and I like to think that I did help some people feel a little better. I think that this guy felt that too, and that's probably why he seemed disappointed when I said that I would be going elsewhere for meetings. He asked me when I would be switching to a different group, and I said I didn't know yet, and I told him that I planned to keep coming to our meetings through the end of the school year. I don't remember if I ever told him the name of my school, but I always wore royal blue and gold. These were the school colors. He also knew my school was nearby, so even if I never specified, it wouldn't have been hard for him to figure it out. During my last 2 weeks of senior year, everything got wild. We had senior ditch day, and there were several late night hangouts, sleepovers, goodbye parties, etc. I missed a few AA meetings at the church, and then switched AA groups altogether. At graduation, everything was great, but then that guy from AA showed up. I wasn't expecting to see him, so I felt off. He didn't know me like that, and I never invited him since we weren't close. Yet there he was, in the back, smiling at me like it was completely normal for him to be there. He approached me afterward and said that he bought me a gift. It was a box of chocolates with a note about how much he was going to miss me. He said that I should drop by the meetings at the church again sometime. I was uncomfortable, so I'm not sure what I said, but I think I probably just said thank you. I never went back to the church for the meetings after that. The whole situation just felt too weird for me, and I didn't want to see him again. And then he showed up at my new job. I was working the cosmetics counter at a big department store. The first time he walked by, I noticed him right away. Then he came back the next day, and then the day after that. He never spoke or asked for help. He just wandered around near my station, lingered awkwardly, and then looked over at me like it was no big deal that he was there. Eventually, I told my coworker, and she's the type of woman who does not play around. When I pointed him out to her, she walked right up to him and asked him what he thought he was doing. She called him out in front of everybody. She said she knew exactly why he was there, and she told him that he was being creepy. His face reddened. A few shoppers turned around to see what was going on, so he walked away without saying a word. We told our manager afterward. Our manager was receptive to us speaking up about this situation and told us to let her know about him right away next time he's in the store. But there was no next time because he never came back. I haven't seen him since, and hopefully he's moved on. In every true crime story, there's that one detail, a receipt, a location ping. a pattern someone couldn't break, a habit that gave them away. So here's the question: what's your habit saying about you? This episode is sponsored by Fume Zero, the brand new grab and go flavored air device by lasting over.
Men over 40 is different. This message is for you. Are you dealing with an enlarged prostate,
miles away from my downtown apartment? It was a really cool place and a great neighborhood, so it was worth the commute. One night on my way home from work, I decided to stop at a used record store in a strip mall near where I worked. I had a crush on my hipster neighbor who collected old jazz on vinyl and thought that maybe I could find something there that would give me a cool excuse to flirt with him. While I was in the store browsing, I noticed a gray-haired man in the next aisle looking at me. When our eyes met, he smiled, and I politely smiled back. I usually don't notice much about other random people who smile at me, but there was this intensity in his eyes that got my attention. He also had one of those smiles that looked insincere. It looked rather forced. I proceeded to browse a few other sections, and every time I looked up, I noticed the same man staring right at me. I tried not to think anything of it, since sometimes people zone out and stare without realizing it. But I kept noticing that he would position himself across from me in nearly every aisle. It was clear that he was trying to flirt, but I wasn't interested. For starters, he was at least twice my age and not my type. I just decided to pretend that I didn't notice him, even though he was repeatedly moving into my direct line of sight. I asked the staff for help with the jazz section, and eventually made my selection. As I was waiting to be rung up, I quickly glanced around the store to make sure that the guy wasn't still lurking. Thankfully, he seemed to have left. After I was done with the record store, I walked out to the parking lot and got into my car. The strip mall was along a busy thoroughfare, so I had to wait until traffic cleared to turn out of the parking lot onto the boulevard. While I waited for an opening, I just happened to glance in my rearview mirror and noticed that the car leaving the parking lot behind me had a burnt-out headlight. There wasn't anything weird about that, but I just happened to notice it. So like I said, the drive home was a long one, but it was mostly a straight shot along this busy thoroughfare. I merged into the left lane and started heading towards home. A few miles into the drive, I once again noticed a car behind me with a single headlight. I wondered, is that the same car? If so, it struck me as unusual that they hadn't passed me, changed lanes, or turned off by then. I was listening to music and thinking about what to make for dinner. It was getting late, so I decided to stop for some fast food instead. I remembered that there was an Arby's just a couple of miles from my house, so I decided, Arby's it is. As I continued driving, I became preoccupied with planning which outfit to wear when I brought the LP to my neighbor's place. But I kept getting this nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach that compelled me to watch my rearview mirror. I glanced up a couple more times to see the one headlight car. It was still behind me, trailing by at least half a city block. This was now easily 12 to 13 miles away from where I first saw it. I was definitely feeling aware, but I still wasn't overly concerned. We were both on a main thoroughfare after all, and it ran from one end of a big city to another. As I neared the turnoff for Arby's, I merged into the right lane and slowed down. Once again, my eyes were drawn to the rearview mirror. Sure enough, the car with one headlight changed lanes, slowed, and took the same turnoff behind me. This was when I suspected that I was being followed. So then, I continued driving and waited until the very last moment to switch to the right lane to pull into Arby's. As I made my turn, I was on the lookout for the car with one headlight. I didn't want to cause an accident, so I only managed to catch a brief glimpse of the car as it passed by down the street. It was a golden sedan, but I couldn't make out any other details, and I couldn't see who was driving. I was just relieved that it didn't seem to be following me after all. So I relaxed and proceeded to the drive-thru to order my dinner, and after I got my food, I navigated my way out of the parking lot. The way the retail parking lots were designed, I had to exit through a supermarket strip mall lot until it led out onto the side street so that I could double back toward the main thoroughfare and continue home. It was a long left turn, but it had its own turn lane, so I blasted my radio and nibbled on a few curly fries while I waited for the arrow to turn green. As I waited, I saw a flash of light reflecting in my rearview mirror. When I glanced up, I saw a car pull up in the lane behind me. It had only one headlight. My heart jumped into my throat. I frantically locked all my doors and turned off the radio. After the light turned, I pulled away as fast as I could, speeding back toward the boulevard, and the single headlight car followed behind. At that point, I was entirely certain that I was being followed. In my gut, I knew who it was. At the time, my state didn't require front plates, so I couldn't see a license plate number. This was also before most of us had cell phones, so I couldn't call for help either. As I pulled back onto the main thoroughfare, I desperately tried to recall where the closest police station was, but I couldn't remember, and the single headlight car was still behind me. I was definitely not about to lead him to where I lived, so luckily I remembered there was a fire station a few blocks from me, so I decided to head there. Even after being back on the streets and taking a few turns, sure enough, that car was still right behind me. It was hanging way back on the side street, but it was there. When I started to approach the fire station, it wasn't as well lit as I had hoped, and the doors were closed. I drove past slowly, and then decided to scrap that idea and head back out to the main road, where there was a lot of traffic. Just before I reached the main boulevard, as the one headlight car slowly approached from behind, I yanked my wheel and swerved all the way from the right lane to the left turn lane. The car just stopped in the middle of the road, so I knew that the driver then knew that I was aware that I was being followed. This was when the driver finally decided to pull up beside me. It was then that I finally saw that gray-haired man from the record store. I couldn't believe he followed me all this way. When I looked at him, he had this big, creepy smile stretched across his face. I gave him a look of horror and disgust in response, and he just shrugged as if to say, "All right, you caught me." And then he motioned for me to roll down my window, but I slowly shook my head. Then he yelled out of his window, "Look, I thought we had a connection back there at the record store. Can I buy you a cup of coffee?" I mouthed no at him and turned left. Then I doubled back through several side streets to get back to the fire station. I pulled up to their front door and laid on my horn until someone came out. I think that the guy gave up following me after he was discovered, but I sure as hell didn't take any chances by going straight home after that. A couple of firefighters came out and called the police for me, who arrived and escorted me home. To this day, I always wonder what would have happened if that guy's headlight hadn't burnt out. I would never have noticed him following me, and I would have driven all the way home.
It's so scary listening to the stories where there is no phones or GPS, you know. It's just like, I don't know what I would do. I don't even know where a fire station or police station nearby here. Sketchy. Yeah, always trust your guts, right? That's the biggest thing. Trust your gut. And just be cautious, especially if you're traveling to a different country. I can't believe the first story where they're in China. And they're drinking like that. That's very irresponsible. But I mean, they're in their 20s, no excuse. But still, no.
This happened when I was 7. When I was younger, I used to live in the Dominican Republic with my grandparents on my father's side and his brother. My dad lived in the US at the time. My uncle and I shared a bedroom. However, to clarify, I was a 7-year-old girl and my uncle was 9. To get to our room, you
Huh?
had to go through my grandma and grandpa's room first. Our room had another door that led to the backyard. As a lot of you might know, the Dominican Republic can be dangerous, especially at night. Since the country can't afford to always keep the electricity running, we have blackouts multiple times a day, every day, which mostly occur during the night when most people are asleep. So, nighttime there is particularly dark. The door to my bedroom that opened to the backyard always scared me because I could hear everything happening outside. It always felt like someone could just burst through the door and abduct me. The door was made of long planks of wood, laid vertically next to each other. This was made from a type of wood that always looked like it was rotting.
Oh.
I always slept in my bed, facing this door, so that I could easily see if anyone was trying to come through it. I fell asleep every night, just staring at that door out of boredom. My grandpa sympathized with me, so he eventually put a huge vintage wooden dresser in front of the door to make it more secure. He bought the dresser off the back of some guy's truck. The dresser was so thick and so heavy that it instantly made me feel safer. On the first night in which I had this dresser, I fell asleep facing in that direction, staring at it. It was weird to look in that direction since the dresser filled out the area, and it was now pitch black in that corner. I could no longer see the little beams of moonlight between the cracks on the slats of the door. I also couldn't hear the sounds of the wild animals in the yard or any of the late night traffic on the street. I remember it was nearing the season for tropical hurricanes, so some nights I could hear the faint sounds of the trees swishing and the door creaking. The door was louder some nights, like it was finally breaking down from the pressure of the winds. My grandparents didn't see anything wrong with the door in the morning when I told them I was concerned that it might be falling apart, and we never thought anything of it after that. A few weeks later, there was a huge storm. While I was trying to sleep, I could hear banging, cracking, and creaking. I also heard these loud whooshing sounds, splashes, and thumps. Naturally, I just thought it was the storm, and so did my uncle. But then, after the storm, we kept hearing similar sounds late at night, and it would always wake us up. We knew that it wasn't the storm causing these noises, but we tried to remain logical and realistic as to what it could be. So, finally, we decided that it was probably the old dresser. We also figured that the door was probably off its hinges. Another theory we had was that it was a stray cat scratching at the door since the wood was nice and soft. Basically, my uncle and I kept trying to scare each other, and it was working. We kept coming up with new excuses for the noises every night, and then we would blame each other when we got scared. All that was kept inside the dresser were blankets, towels, curtains, and various linens. The dresser was tall, and there was a divider in the middle. The left side had shelves, where my grandma would keep the folded towels, and the right side had a hanging rack, where you would hang curtains and sheets. Sometimes my grandma would complain that the blankets had dirt on them. She would blame my uncle, and then blame me, thinking we were wiping our hands on everything whenever we were too lazy to go wash them. One night, there was a louder thump than usual. It was coming from the direction of the dresser. I woke up in a sudden panic, and my uncle was already wide awake. I immediately thought that he was playing games with me, so I started yelling at him. My grandpa woke up and came to see what was going on, so I told him that my uncle woke me up and was trying to scare me. My uncle denied it and said that he was woken up by all of the noise outside. My grandpa didn't hear anything, so he told us to stop playing around and go back to sleep. As he started to walk back to his room, there was another loud thump. My grandpa finally heard it, and we were freaked out because it sounded like it was coming from inside the dresser. So he went to the bathroom, got the oil lamp that we kept in there, turned it on, and opened the dresser to look. We saw the hanging blankets and curtains moving slightly. My grandpa quickly stuck his hand in, and when he moved the linen to the side, he saw that there was a woman in the dresser. She was very small and skinny. There was a little hole in the right side of the cardboard backing of the dresser. From what he could tell, it didn't lead to the outside. The door was still behind it. But we instantly knew how she got in from the position she was in when my grandpa opened the dresser. She was standing up with her knees slightly bent, facing towards the hole. Her hand was up and behind the hole, reaching up towards the frame of the door. I could see her whole body, and I still remember what she was wearing. A long, flowing, sun-colored skirt and a dark green shirt that was too small for her. She was also holding a plastic bag with a few small things inside of it. When my grandpa had moved the blankets out of the way, she panicked, and we heard that she dropped something. It was a couple of nails and screws,
I'm hungry.
the ones that were holding the door planks together. The plank became loose, so she started to push it with her hands, and that was the creaking that we heard. After a few seconds of struggling, she finally pushed the plank down and started finagling her body through the crack in the door. Her head didn't fit right away, so my grandpa reached toward her and grabbed her arm. She was panicking, and she bit him. She bit him so hard that she almost ripped his skin off. He was bleeding, and she didn't let go until he let go of her first. She then rammed her head through the door, and we could see how much it hurt her to force her head through it because it made a very distinct scraping sound. She tripped over her skirt when she reached the other side of the door, but she was still able to run. We had an outdoor sink, and she got on top of it. Then she climbed the wall that separated our backyard from the backyard of the next-door neighbors. The wall was made of cinder blocks, and it was so old and weathered that it had a bunch of holes and deformities in it. She used these blemishes on the wall to scale it and climb over. While she was climbing, my grandpa ran out of our room, past his bedroom, the living room, and the dining room to open the door to the backyard. We followed him as he ran by, and my grandma woke up. By the time he got the back door open, the woman was more than halfway up the wall. My grandpa then grabbed a machete that he kept behind the broken washing machine that we had in the yard, right next to the door, and he ran towards her. He swung it, but he missed her. At that exact moment, the electricity came back on, so all of the streetlights flickered and turned on. We were able to see her clearly as she reached the top of the wall and jumped to the other side. My grandma had followed us to the yard, but didn't get to see what was happening. She asked what was going on, and my grandpa started swearing and yelling at the woman. We don't have free emergency services in the Dominican Republic, so there wasn't much that we could do since we didn't have any money. And lucky for us, no one was hurt in the end. We went to examine the door and the dresser to try and figure out exactly how she got in there almost every night. This woman had removed the screws and the nails on one of the planks on the door. Then she cut out a hole in the dresser so she would be able to stay in it. That woman was in our room almost every night for 2 months, sleeping just a few feet away from us. We have no idea if she ever even stepped out of the dresser to walk around the rest of our home. We didn't go back to sleep for the rest of the night. Before the sun was fully risen, my grandpa was nailing down the door from both sides. He bought a sack of cement and covered the door with it from the outside. He also replaced another door on the side of the house that led to the outside. It was in the same condition as the bedroom door. We never came in contact with that woman again.
Spooky. That's so scary. What? Yeah, that's scary. Glad everyone's okay. I wonder what happened to that woman. Like, where are you at? Why were you in there? Like, what? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out and listening to the podcast. There's more to go. If you guys want to, just go to podcast app. It is free. I finished one square. I'm working on the second one. My stomach is growling, so I'm gonna go get some food and then go get my kid from school. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out and crocheting, knitting, whatever you did. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.